Bo, have you seen Sir Keir Starmer has not... he's basically refused to rule out rejoining the EU, amazingly, apparently. So this is quite surprising, because some people will probably be watching this and going, "Yes, so well, yeah, but it is a bit weird. Why would you not? Why would you not rule it out when there was a referendum? That's weird. That's a weird time to be, politician speak, to beat around the bush. It's a bit odd. It's super, super odd. Normally, you just be straight up and be like, no, sorry, there was a referendum. No, of course we're not going to. Unless you had some kind of machinations to rejoin. It's a bit of a weird one, I think. And just thought it'd be worthwhile covering. So, basically, Sir Keir Starmer, has repeatedly refused to rule out the UK rejoining the EU in his lifetime, which is, again, a weird thing for him to not rule out as well. So the Prime Minister, who backed Remain during the 2016 Brexit campaign, made the pledge in the run-up to last year's general election. But in an interview with The Observer, he failed to make the same commitment again when asked 5 times. He told the newspaper, "We've stopped having the discussion about whether we should go backwards and pick over Brexit." I mean, but that's not... That's a non-answer, really, especially when they're trying to do a Brexit reset.
No, it's weird. Like, why? I mean, when it comes to people who are savvy enough to know that quite often it's between the lines, it's what's not said by politicians, which is the key thing, because they've got to do their politician thing of trying not to get themselves caught in a lie or be seen to be doing 180s and sound bites that might come back and bite them in the ass years to come. So in other words, quite often it's an exercise in not letting yourself get painted into a corner. Quite often it's that. And if that means that you have to say things that sound a bit weird, a bit odd, then that's what they do. But then if you know what you're listening to, that's like, your spidey senses tingling. It's like, oh, they're refusing to rule something out. That actually is significant, right? And there's a classic example of when John Howard, very famous example of 20 years ago plus, something like that. Jeremy Paxman had John Howard on, who was the leader of the Conservatives at the time in opposition. And the simple question was, Paxman was saying, did you threaten to overrule a certain person? And John Howard saying, I didn't overrule him. And Paxman saying, no, okay, good. Yeah, you didn't. But I'm asking, did you threaten to? And John Howard goes, I didn't overrule him. And Paxman they just go back and forth again, like, honestly, like 10 times. No, but did you threaten to? I didn't. Yeah, but did you threaten? And so, now that sounds absurd. Well, it is absurd. But what John Howard's doing there is trying to play that game where he's not on record as saying, I didn't threaten to overrule him. And then later it comes out, you did threaten to overrule him, and therefore you're a liar. So you play that stupid politician's game of just saying, I didn't overrule him. So, in other words, I say all of that so that where the Prime Minister here has been asked 5 times to rule it out and doesn't, that is significant. That really does mean that he would want to. If he could, he would want to. For me, the bit where it's in my lifetime, that's a significant bit, though, isn't it? So I don't feel like Starmer's got plans in the next 3.5 years or whatever it is, 4 years, to actually, truly, fully, legally reverse Brexit entirely and rejoin the European Union as a full member. I don't think that will happen. I don't think he's got time to do it. If he tried to start doing that process right now, I don't think there'd be enough time before the next general election. But I mean, I don't necessarily know all the details about how that would really play out. I don't think anyone would, but he'd probably have to get okayed and ratified by all sorts of the other member states. I don't think there's time in this parliament for Sir Keir to do it. But still, the point that they want it, that it's on their radar to some degree, all of that, they hated it, didn't they? The whole thing, they hated it so much. It's a fly in the ointment of their globalist agenda.
It's such a shame, isn't it? Like, led by such weak people that they felt like being part of this mega bureaucracy was much more. There was more sort of grandiose spectacle and a sense of, it was more respectable to be part of that rather than be a sole country that has its own power. I mean, that's why it was never realised post Brexit. The amount of power that you have as a sovereign parliament, and that's why they won't. That's why they don't want to leave the ECHR either. They're not interested because they don't want to have the power. They're not interested actually in having true power. They like being subservient to the bureaucracy of the EU. It's pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic.
It really is.
They love just taking a big fat check home and being told what to do from a bigger parliament. It's fucking, honestly, it's really pathetic.
Yeah. Sickeningly pathetic. You must remember, it was only a few weeks ago, or a month or two ago, Nige got up in Parliament and talked about, or tried to raise a bill to leave the ECHR. It was never really going to get through because the Lib Dems and and Labour and I think the SNP actually turned up in force to make sure it didn't go through. But anyway, in that, Nigel, who even for our money is milquetoast, but nonetheless, this was a good thing he did, certainly. He got up and he said, one of the things he said was he turned to like all the Lib Dems and stuff that are sitting there and he says, like, don't you want the power? Don't you want Parliament to be powerful? Like, it's your power. You're the MPs. Don't you want this country to be, or this house to be strong and sovereign? Right? And they're literally laughing and jeering at him. They're literally sneering at him when he's saying that. I mean, what can you do with these people? What can you do?
It's mad, isn't it?
They actively want this country to be weaker or just fucked up entirely. That's what they actively want. What can you do? What can you do? It's mad. It's fucking mad. But yeah, I mean, Labour, all the Remainers, all the Ramonas, they were so pissed off with David Cameron for even letting there be a referendum, let alone the likes of Theresa May or Boris Johnson that had to actually do it. And then we all know what a betrayal it really was. What a bullshit half measure it is to this day.
You know why, though, don't you? Right? Is because the referendum, introducing a legally binding referendum, they hated the prospect of it because it was something that they had to do. Right? They had to do it, and I'm sure maybe they even would have tried as well to subvert that level of democracy. But basically, it's. We don't live in a democracy, right? Like I'm very much certain that we don't, right? We don't. We live in an autocracy by bureaucracy. That's what I think. Show me otherwise. Show me where the will of the people has been carried out. It hasn't been for decades. And the thing is about that referendum is, like you couldn't argue with it. You had to do it, and so they really, and that's why they've always dragged their heels because they never wanted to do it. And they hated the prospect of it because it was democracy. They actually don't like democracy. Politicians don't actually like democracy. They profit from the illusion of democracy. And the state grows bigger and bigger and bigger. But we're not in a democracy.
I mean, do you remember it was in the Boris, towards the very end of the Brexit process, under Boris, they had... The way Parliament itself, the actual House of Commons itself, tried to thwart everything at every possible stage, and the Speaker himself was in on it all. And in the end, Jacob Rees-Mogg and Boris had to actually prorogue Parliament.
Yeah,
I
mad.
mean, could Parliament have been more subversive on the issue? Perhaps it's not quite the right word, but yeah, just clearly trying to work against the will of the people as hard as it possibly could at every possible turn. It's fucked up. There'll be a reckoning one way or another at the ballot box. I'm talking about. There'll be a reckoning sooner or later. They can't treat us like this forever. Whether it's next time with Nigel and reform, or in the future with some sort of Rupert Lowe, or who knows, in the decades and decades to come, how far they will push the people and how much of a reaction, how much of a reactionary knee-jerk the people will resort to before we get a parliament full of people that will actually look out for our interest and not just sneer, laugh, and goad someone as milquetoast as Nigel Farage asking to leave the European Union, the European Court of Human Rights. Mad.